Coming up, taking ATC away from the FAA, where the proposal stands and what it means for general aviation. Staying safe during storm season, flying in South America, impressive flying in Paris, and the giggles heard round the world. AOPA Live this week begins in just a moment.
From your first skyward glance, the dream of flight compelled you. And from your first glimpse of a Cirrus, you realized that dream had a name. Cirrus Aircraft. Go where you've never been before.
A very powerful congressman is about to introduce legislation to privatize air traffic control and pay for it with user fees. Hello, everyone, and welcome to AOPA Live this week. I'm Tom Haynes. Melissa Rudinger is on assignment. The chairman of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee wants to take air traffic control away from the FAA and turn it into a government-chartered nonprofit corporation. Representative Bill Shuster of Pennsylvania announced his proposed law this week at the Washington Aero Club lunch. And AOPA Live executive producer Warren Morningstar was there, and now he's here. And so, Warren, what's the plan?
Well, Tom, at the moment we have just the barest outlines of a plan. We really don't have any details yet. But Congressman Shuster says he plans to introduce his FAA reauthorization bill later this month and get a vote on it before Congress leaves Washington for the August recess. And his proposal would be the biggest change to the FAA in more than 50 years.
I believe that it's essential to separate air traffic control from our safety regulator. I believe we need to establish a federally chartered, fully independent, not-for-profit corporation to operate and modernize our ATC services. Creation of this new corporation would naturally be carried out within the bounds of our Constitution. The corporation would be governed by a board of system users. The users and the public interest will be fairly represented, and steps will be taken to prevent any conflicts of interest and domination of the board by one group.
The FAA's funding authorization will expire this September. Representative Shuster told the Aero Club that the current funding system doesn't work.
We will establish a stable, self-sustaining, and fair user fee funding structure for ATC, removing from the budget process and the annual appropriation cycle, and free from funding uncertainty, political meddling, bureaucratic red tape that have plagued the FAA and ATC services for years.
So that sounds an awful lot like the system that we know to the north as NAV Canada.
Well, in fact, Chairman Shuster did cite NAV Canada as one of his examples, and also Eurocontrol and some other privatized agencies. But again, we haven't seen the legislation yet, so we just have no details. We don't know what it would really look like.
Right. So what's been the reaction so far from this announcement a couple days ago?
Well, most people are sort of keeping their powder dry. They're not saying much. They are waiting to say, see the details before they say much more. But AOPA has laid out some very specific things that must be in any change.
It's going to be very important that there are no user fees, that we have a voice, either through Congress or some type of governance, whatever the system is going to employ, to make sure that general aviation taxes can't be changed without Congress and the support of Congress. Making sure that they're not restricting the airspace and how we get to the airspace and use the national airspace system.
And AOPA wants to continue with the general aviation fuel tax to help pay for FAA operations.
We think that the fuel tax system is a very efficient system. It takes place before you actually get the fuel in your tank at your airport. It gets charged just after the refinery. It goes directly to the Treasury, and it's now allocated based on the more you fly, the more you pay in your user fee, call it gas tax. And I'm comfortable with that. We think that system, whether it's jet fuel or piston fuel, is the right way to go. I don't want another level of bureaucracy out there. We call it the Sky IRS, trying to figure out who's flying where and what, and maybe potentially having us fly more VFR because we're trying to avoid fees. Unacceptable.
And Tom, as we're recording this, Mark is actually down on Capitol Hill talking with Chairman Shuster, so to make sure that he understands what GA's position is going to be on all of this.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think the timeline is? When are we going to see some action?
Well, as we said earlier, the chairman wants to introduce the bill later this month, move it through committee, get it out on the floor before the August recess. But first he has to get approval in committee, then it goes to the full House, and then after the full House has seen it, then it moves over to the Senate. Over on the Senate side, there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of support yet for this idea, so who knows. But it has to be done by September 30th or the FAA runs out of money again.
Wow. So we've been down that road many times before.
We've been that road many times.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks, Warren. Lots more to come on that one. Well, meanwhile, a big win for aircraft owners in South Carolina. The governor there has signed a law that exempts general aviation aircraft maintenance from sales tax. The rate is currently 7%. That goes away at the start of next year. AOPA had been a strong supporter of that legislation, and it'll allow aircraft owners to save thousands of dollars while supporting jobs and businesses in the state. Well, it's that time of year again, summer thunderstorm season, and the AOPA Air Safety Institute wants you to have the tools to stay safe. In this week's ePilot newsletter, you'll find a link to a thunderstorm safety quiz. AOPA Air Safety Institute Senior Vice President George Perry hopes you'll click on that link.
So I would recommend take that quiz, see how you do. If you get 100, great, go flying. If you do less than 100, maybe check out AOPA's Safety Spotlights for thunderstorm avoidance. Check out the webinars, the courses, the quizzes, the videos. Make yourself smart so when you go out and enjoy that summertime flying season, you're ready to go and ready to go safely.
You'll find all the resources on the Air Safety Institute page under the Pilot Resources tab on, you guessed it, aopa.org. And speaking of the AOPA Air Safety Institute, Senior Vice President George Perry there, he's sharing his years of safety expertise with the Civil Air Patrol. Perry has joined the CAP Board of Governors. He hopes to build on the group's history of safety and innovation. Congratulations to you, George. Meanwhile, general aviation opens up all kinds of opportunities to see the world. AOPA Editor-at-Large Tom Horn shows what it's like to experience South America by way of GA.
All of us have our ideas of a fantasy trip, and some of us get to live them. I joined up with an air journey tour in South America to get a taste of the action. The first flight of the trip was from Buenos Aires to Iguazu Falls, Brazil. As we fly over the jungle waiting for a big checkpoint, there it is, the mist rising from Iguazu's waterfalls. Pretty soon we'd see those falls up close and personal, believe me. Our hotel is located right at the falls. Here's the view from the front door. The main attraction is a trip through the jungle and a visit to the falls. You know something's up when they issue you life jackets. Our captain draws closer to the falls, and closer. And yep, we're in the falls. And out. And back in again. Soon enough, it's time to depart for Rio de Janeiro. Sue Runge is flying with her husband Ian in their TBM 700.
This is our last continent that we need to explore.
After arriving at Rio's Galeão International Airport, we go all over the city, then up Corcovado Mountain to see the Christ the Redeemer statue, which has gone IMC. But no one's complaining. Then comes a cable car ride up Sugarloaf Mountain. Sugarloaf is severe clear, so we have a great view of Rio and its suburbs. It's a great way to end the day and to show you just how much flying your own airplane can open up new horizons.
Hope you enjoyed it and look forward to seeing you next time, hopefully in a place as equally exotic as right here on Sugarloaf Mountain in Rio de Janeiro. Tom Horn, AOPA Live.
Thanks, Tom. Sounds like quite a way to get around. You can read more about the South America Air Journey Tour in the July Turbine edition of AOPA Pilot Magazine. Coming up after the break, showing off at the Paris Air Show and taking a 4-year-old for an acro flight. Spoiler alert, she loves it. You're watching AOPA Live this week.
It's been called the most sophisticated single-engine airplane ever, but to the people whose loved ones are alive today, it's called a lifesaver. The Cirrus Airframe Parachute System, only from Cirrus Aircraft.
Welcome back. You're watching AOPA Live this week. Cirrus Aircraft is celebrating a milestone. The 6,000th aircraft has been delivered. The first SR-20 rolled out of the factory only 16 years ago. I was there that day in Duluth. The company now has airplanes in 60 countries around the world. You may recall Cirrus Aircraft was announced as a supporting sponsor of AOPA earlier this month. Icon Aircraft has the green light to fire up the production line. The company passed an FAA audit that allows it to start producing the highly anticipated SLSA. The first customer will get their airplane at AirVenture next month, and stay tuned, lots of rumors that it may be somebody's name who you recognize. We'll see about that. And as we record this broadcast, AOPA crews are on location in Northern California flying the light sport amphib. We'll bring you an exclusive report on how the machine handles and what it's like to fly next week right here on this program. Well, the drone industry is getting together to share ideas. RoboFest 2015 is gathering drone organizations, users, and other stakeholders. They met this week at the UAS Academy in Virginia. Topics they talked about included how to operate legally and safely. Interesting to note that many people in attendance also held airplane pilot certificates. You can read more about it at aopa.org. Well, they're getting closer. Build a Plane is in its second and final week. You'll remember we told you last week about a group of high school students building a Glass Air Sportsman. It's all part of a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education initiative. The airplane should be ready to taxi later this week. Well, these giggles are going viral, and it's easy to see and hear why. Looks like fun. This 4-year-old is getting her first aerobatic ride in a Citabria. Her dad, Raphael Langemier, is a Canadian test pilot and acro instructor. And you can tell that little Leah is having a blast. The clip has hundreds of thousands of views in its first 24 hours on Vimeo. If you go watch it, I promise you'll smile along the way. And speaking of aerobatics, a wide-body airliner doing a near vertical takeoff. Boeing did just that with its new 787-900 in this YouTube video. The clip was recorded to preview Boeing's demonstration at the Paris Air Show, and it has over 9 million views already. Imagine how much better it would be to fly commercial if every takeoff was that exciting, or at least for the pilots on board. The others maybe not so much. And finally this week, the Boeing 787 is not the only airplane to show off at the Paris Air Show. We'll leave you with clips from the event. Melissa Rudinger will be back with us next Thursday. Till then, I'm Tom Haynes. Thanks for watching.